The all-new third generation model of the Toyota Sequoia is here for 2023 after a 15-year model run of the outgoing second generation Sequoia. And with its arrival, we see a departure of the legendary 5.7 liter V8 and an introduction of an all-new 6-cylinder hybrid powertrain that's standard on the new Sequoia. In today's video, we're going to take a look at real-world gas mileage. The new Sequoia engine is a 3.4 liter twin turbo 6-cylinder hybrid paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission. And it has a very impressive 437 horsepower and 583 pound-feet of torque. Now the Sequoia shares the same platform with the Toyota Tundra, and this engine, which is known as the iForce Max, is also shared on that Tundra as a premium engine option. The Tundra is also available with a base engine, which is the iForce. It's a similar 3.4 liter 6-cylinder twin turbo without the hybrid component. Now, interestingly, on the iForce base SR model, you're going to see 348 horsepower and 405 pound-feet of torque. The SR5 and up models see 389 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. So this hybrid powertrain is actually focused primarily on getting you more power in terms of horsepower and torque, and it sees a pretty big bump in both of those areas. Now, I'm going to get into real-world fuel efficiency in just a moment, but as far as EPA ratings go, that standard iForce engine on the Tundra, for a four-wheel drive model, you're going to see a rating of 17 miles per gallon in the city and 22 miles per gallon on the highway. With an iForce Max Tundra, which again is the hybrid powertrain that we've got right here, you see a 2 mile per gallon improvement in city driving to 19 in the city and 22 on the highway, and that's the same that you get with this four-wheel drive Sequoia. A rear-wheel drive Sequoia is rated a little bit higher at 21 miles per gallon in the city and 24 miles per gallon on the highway. Now, before I get into the fuel efficiency numbers that I've been seeing on the Sequoia, I wanted to touch real briefly on how I've been driving it, because that's going to have a big effect on your fuel efficiency. If you're doing a lot of stop and go driving, high-speed driving, going up mountain passes, temperature can have an effect. Towing is obviously going to have an effect. And so I wanted to touch on all that real quick just to let you know kind of how I've been driving it before I talk about the specific numbers that I've been seeing. Now, in general, I've just been doing my day-to-day driving with the Sequoia, resetting the trip computer frequently as I do different types of driving to see what kind of fluctuations I see in terms of that fuel efficiency. Most of my driving is about 30-35 miles an hour with very few stops. I've also taken it up to the mountain skiing several times. I've been on a few trails, and I do live in a hilly area, and so I've been driving up a steep grade to get to my house and then coasting down the hill when I'm going places. But again, resetting the computer frequently. It's also winter right now, so it's been pretty cold outside. That's probably going to have an effect on the efficiency of the battery pack, as well as how often the hybrid powertrain is going to kick in and shut off those gas engines, especially with the climate control running. So I have been running the heat most of the time when I'm driving it, but again, I've also done some tests where I'm not running the heat, not using the heated seats or steering wheel, to see how that affects the efficiency as well. So I've tried to really kind of cover all of those various scenarios to really test what the efficiency would be like. The one thing I can't really factor in is the temperature, because it is cooler out, so it hasn't been real warm. And then the fastest that I've driven it has probably been about 65 miles an hour, because we don't have any interstates nearby, and our max speed limit is about 65. So there haven't been really many opportunities to drive it at those higher speeds. Now, I wanted to mention just a couple other things before I get into the fuel efficiency numbers. The first one is that I actually owned a 2022 Toyota Tundra with the standard iForce engine for just over a year, so I'm very familiar with that base powertrain. And even though it's the base powertrain, I've got to say that it is very impressive. Not once during the time that I owned it did I feel like there was a lack of power. On the contrary, it had an abundance of power, and it was really nice to drive. So I was really excited to get the opportunity to experience this iForce Max and to see how it would compare and to see if it would really raise that bar. And what I've been really surprised with actually is that the experience is very similar. I have a hard time really discerning the difference between the standard iForce and this iForce Max powertrain. The other thing that I want to mention is that even though this is a hybrid, the experience is very different from typical hybrids. It's very infrequent that you go into full EV mode. One thing that was kind of interesting actually is that the standard iForce does have auto start stop, and it was not a very effective system. very few times would the engine actually shut off when I was idling. With this, it is basically just a better auto start stop system. So when you're at a stoplight or a stop sign, most of the time this will shut off even if the climate control is running. So I found that to be the biggest advantage. But generally when you're driving at lower speeds, it's still running on that gas engine. It's not like other hybrids where as long as you're under, say, 20 miles an hour, you're pretty much in that EV mode. With this, it's basically the couple seconds when you're about to come to a stop, the engine would shut off, and then as soon as the light would turn green or you'd start to accelerate, the gas engine would turn back on. There were a few instances where I'd find myself driving at those slower speeds, like 10 miles an hour, not pushing on the gas at all, where it would go into that EV mode. But again, it was very much a small portion of the time. So what is the real world fuel efficiency on the all-new Sequoia? What I've been averaging in general during the time that I've had it is 15.5 to 16 miles per gallon. The best numbers that I've seen have been strictly highway driving, going at about 55 to 60 miles an hour with no stops. And in that instance, I average about 20 to 20.5 miles per gallon. So the numbers are quite a bit lower than those EPA ratings. I would say that my official driven companion fuel efficiency rating for the new Sequoia would be 15 miles per gallon in the city and 20 miles per gallon on the highway. Now again, just to compare that to the standard iForce engine on the Tundra, I made a similar video when I had my Tundra before, and what I said in that video was that basically my average on the Tundra was between 14 and 17 miles per gallon. I was seeing about 14 miles per gallon when I was doing strictly in-town driving, more like 17 miles per gallon when I was doing highway driving, and the best numbers that I saw on the Tundra in strictly highway driving was about 19 miles per gallon. And so on the Tundra, I basically gave an official driven companion fuel efficiency rating of 14 miles per gallon in the city and 19 miles per gallon on the highway. And what that means is that going from the standard iForce to this iForce Max hybrid powertrain, the improvement that I've seen was about 1 mile per gallon. And in both cases, with the standard iForce and the iForce Max, that means those numbers are coming in quite a bit lower than those EPA ratings of 17 and 22 on the Tundra and 19 and 24 on this Sequoia. So in summary, this new iForce Max hybrid powertrain on the Sequoia is a bit more than just fuel efficiency alone. Again, looking at the Tundra and the standard iForce compared with the iForce Max, you're getting more horsepower, more torque. It's going to be a little bit quicker. Tow capacity will vary somewhat, and you are seeing a slight improvement in fuel efficiency. According to the EPA, that's going to be 2 miles per gallon in city driving, and about the same for highway driving. According to Driven Companion, you're going to see probably more of a 1 mile per gallon difference between the standard iForce and the iForce Max. But the bigger picture of the story is that you're probably not going to see the 19 miles per gallon in the city and 22 miles per gallon on the highway advertised by the EPA. According to my experience, I'm seeing more like 15 in the city and 20 on the highway with this four-wheel drive model. And of course, that's going to be a little bit higher with a rear-wheel drive model. So those are my thoughts. Love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. And for more Toyota videos, be sure to subscribe. In the meantime, thanks for watching.